the ground underneath me just kind of opened up, and I just kind of fell through the planet in a way. There was this brief sensation of falling, and I tried to grab him, but just slipped down this little rabbit hole, and I was falling and falling and falling, and then after a short period of time of falling, I fell up into myself, but on the deck of a little water ski boat.
Welcome back to the Jupiter podcast. I'm your host, Tom Franklin, and today we have on Steve Cantwell. I ran across him literally on YouTube on a YouTube channel called Slap Ham. Shout out to that English gentleman. I don't know your name, sorry. And I've seen that he has a very interesting story. I don't always do, poltergeists and Bigfoot and the paranormal and UFOs and super soldiers and all the things that I've been doing. Once in a while, I run across a story that I just need to hear. This gentleman was so accommodating and saying that he'd come on with me today, and I'm really looking forward to that. If you enjoy the podcast, please do me a favor, like and subscribe. I just recently got monetized. That's pretty awesome. You can also find me on what's the name of that other one? I will be on Spreaker, which means I'm on all the other iHeartRadio and all that stuff. You can find me there, and I'm also on Rumble. That's what I was trying to do. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. I just started that as well. I'm not really into all the, really big into social media, but when you do what I do, you kind of have to be. Anyhow, with all that out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Jupiter podcast, Mr. Steve Cantwell.
Thank you, sir. Glad to be here.
So glad. It's just the strangest way to run across somebody for the show that I'm just chilling on a Saturday. And I was like, oh, weird stories from the internet. Click. And seeing this one, I was like, this is perfect. So first of all, thanks for coming on, man.
You're welcome. Yeah, happy that you ran into it. It's everywhere. The first time that I started telling the story in a public way was, probably 8 years ago. I was on a pretty popular stand-up comedy podcast called The Crab Feast, and that's the that's
incredible. Yeah. That's Ryan. What's his last name?
Sickler and Jay Larson.
Right, he's from Baltimore, where I'm from. He's from
that's
Baltimore,
right.
Like me. Ryan, that's great. That's awesome. Always 5 degrees of separation, whatever you call it.
So those guys found me at a festival, a comedy festival, and I was on their show live on a comedy festival talking about how I was in witness protection. So I turned my business partner in and was in witness protection in Alaska for a few years. And so that's how they came to me, is me telling the story of my witness protection. And then after that show was over, they said, do you have any more stories? And I said, I actually have this other story, this story about Salvia. And they're like, come to Los Angeles, be on our podcast. And they actually broke it into two different sections, of part A and part B, that really goes into it pretty deeply. But and then ever since then, I've written about it for magazines. They've talked about it on the Rogan show a number of times, and it's just kind of been the quintessential Salvia story for people that have taken Salvia or are about to take Salvia.
Yeah, be careful. Salvia, it's called, I think it's the full name is Salvia divinorum. It's a Schedule 1 drug. that didn't
Yeah.
used to be that way. I'm a big fan of Terrence McKenna. I've read a few of his books, Food of the Gods, etc. And he
Yeah.
would always speak and how it's back before
Yeah.
he passed in 2000, how it was actually under the radar, and then it got popular, and then they go ahead and scheduled it with the rest of the 1970s sweeping psychedelic act. And
Yep.
yeah, I've come across this will be the third story of its nature, and I'm definitely sitting on pins and needles waiting for you to go. Just man, if since you're good, you can take as much time as you need, or as
Okay.
time as you have, and let's go. Go ahead, man. I'm looking forward to this.
So I was in witness protection in Alaska. I was Mormon, and I had never smoked anything, had never drank anything, had never taken anything more heavy than ibuprofen, and tried to take as little ibuprofen as possible. Mormons are kind of
All right,
natural. And so, I've been a member for my entire life. My family had been in it for 7 generations. So had no experience whatsoever with drugs. In witness protection, I lived next door to this dude who was kind of a boss in the armory, and he was an army ranger, and he was just a heck of a guy. And he asked me one time, he was in Iraq, and he said, "Hey, I'm coming home for Christmas, and I had always talked to him about what are drugs like, what's marijuana like, and he would try to explain it to me. And he hadn't partaken of it for decades, because at that point he'd been 20 years in the army. So, and they don't do anything like that. So he hadn't
right,
done it
right.
in a really long time, and I think he missed it too. And while he was deployed, he found out about this stuff that he called a synthetic marijuana, something that the Army test for, and something that Mormons didn't have in their questions. You probably have heard of it, called spice, right?
I was in the military.
Oh
I
yeah,
was stationed in Germany in 2000. I had this
oh
gentleman
yeah,
that I would occasionally get some things from, and he goes, "Hey, this I never took it." He goes, "This is called spice, and it's a
yeah,
synthetic marijuana." It's such an interesting connection. All right, man,
yeah,
please.
yeah. So he didn't know the word spice, but he just knew that there was some kind of synthetic marijuana that his guys in his platoon were smoking. And so he said, if you can find some of that, apparently it's legal. You can just walk into a head shop. And so he says, if you can get together when I come home, you and I could smoke this synthetic marijuana, and that could give you some idea of what it's like to be high, and it wouldn't put you in trouble with the Mormon Church, and it wouldn't put me in trouble with the Army. And he said we could just have a great Christmas, and that was great. Our kids were all friends. We lived next door to each other, a bunch of little girls and a little boy, and they would always play
Awesome.
together. We would spend Christmas at each other's houses all the time, and we were tight with them. So I was like, yeah, that sounds great. So I found a head shop there in Anchorage, and went in there, and I picked out just the biggest, most audacious bong that I could find, and all of the trappings, and talked to the person who I bought the bong from at the store, and said, and then I also want to get to this stuff. It's not marijuana, it's legal. And have you ever heard of anything that you can smoke that's legal? And she said, do you mean salvia? And I was like, sure, it's probably salvia. And she's like, well, we
Oh
have
my
different
god.
different strengths of salvia. We have the 10x, the 20x, the 50x, and the 100x. And I didn't want to go to the salvia party, so I decided I would just go big or go home. So in a way, to try to kind of impress my neighbor, I got the 100x salvia,
Oh,
you
oh
know,
no.
foil thing, and a micro
Oh no.
torch, and just everything that I thought that you needed to do to smoke weed. Wrapped it up, put it down in his gun room, waited for him to come home. He came home. Our families got together. The kids opened their presents in the morning, and we were down at his house. And he's like, "Hey, let's go down to the gun room and unwrap our present." So we go down to the gun room, unwrap this big bong, and pull this, put stuff as much salvia as we can into this giant mount, fire
Yeah.
piece for this enormous bong. And of course, wanting to show off and be as macho as the alpha male Army Ranger next door, I decided I was going to go first. I had practiced with just breathing through it just to get the idea of how to
Yeah.
pull a lungful through this thing, and then just, brave as brass, just hit that thing with a microtorch and took the biggest, hardest pull of this 100 times salvia that I could possibly grab, and held it and held it and held it, and then while I was holding it, it's like the ground underneath me just kind of opened up, and I just kind of fell through the planet in a way. There was this brief sensation of falling, and I tried to grab him, but just slipped down this little rabbit hole, and I was falling and falling and falling, and then after a short period of time of falling, I fell up into myself, but on the deck of a little water ski boat, and it wasn't Christmas in Alaska. It was winter.
Right.
It was July or sometime warm, in on a water ski boat, and was coughing and coughing and coughing. I was wearing a swimsuit and a life jacket, and I had a bunch of people around me that were also on this boat that were trying to get me to sit up, and were pounding me on the back while I was coughing. I was coughing so hard. You know how when you cough, the pads of your fingers hurt a little bit, the capillaries in them, just from the coughing. Yeah, that's how hard I had been coughing. But I was amazed that how everything around me just seemed normal. I just thought, well, this is what it is like to be on marijuana. So I just was like, I'm on a trip, so to speak. So I was just looking around, and the water was wet, and I was laughing and kind of not paying any attention to what the guys on the boat were saying, because I just thought it was going to be fleeting. It was just going to last a few minutes and then be gone. So I was just kind of soaking it up, and they were exchanging worried looks because I wasn't acting right in their estimation. So they were worried enough about me that they didn't even put the boat on the trailer. They just side tied it to the dock and threw me in their truck. And one of them took me to a walking clinic that was close, and said, "Hey, our friend, we were water skiing. He almost drowned and was face down for a while in the water. By the time we came around to get him,
Oh
he'd been
my
underwater
God.
for a long time. But he's breathing now, but he doesn't remember any of us, and he's acting strangely." And it was
How were you
true.
taking all that? How were you taking all
Laughing,
that when they were saying that? Okay.
laughing, opening drawers in the doctor's office, and I explained to them that I lived in Alaska, and that I it was Christmas, and I was in witness protection, and all of that sounded just suspicious as hell to these people. And
Yeah.
we were in the Salvia trip. We were in Tyler, Texas, someplace that I had never been in my entire life. It was summertime. The guys that I'd been,
Texas.
yeah, someplace that I had never been before. And the guys that I had been water skiing with apparently had known me my entire life since grade school. And I didn't remember any of them. So the doctor checked me, tested my pulse ox, tested my reflexes, shined a light in my eyes, and just said, well,
Did you look in the mirror by any chance?
looked the same, Everything looked the same.
Okay.
Everything felt the same. Didn't was just, that was the big takeaway thing at that point, was just I was amazed at how real it all seemed. There was nothing supernatural. I wasn't suddenly telepathic. I couldn't fly. It wasn't like a dream. It was just a cold hard reality with speed limits and real things that are in the drawers. The doctor said, look, real actual amnesia is something that they only have in TV movies. So that's really not a thing. Medical amnesia is not really a thing. You just got your bell rung, so to speak, and it should come back by morning. It should slowly start to come back to yourself. You were just without oxygen for a while. So didn't have insurance, so I didn't get admitted into the hospital, but I seemed fine. I felt fine. I just couldn't remember them. And I was insistent on the fact that that I was just on a salvia trip, and that I actually lived in Alaska, and I was Mormon,
You told them that.
and yes, yeah, that I had
Wow.
taken synthetic marijuana, and that I was having a trip, and my friend was back in Alaska waiting to go next after I was done tripping. And so my friends were just like, scared, but took me home, sat with me for a few minutes in my really briefly in my apartment. They opened up some apartment that I lived in. I went in there. I lived there alone, just in this 1 bedroom, mediocre, terrible, apartment. But like, I had clothes in the drawers, and there was pictures of me and some friends, some of them that I had seen that day on the boat. On the wall there was, books that I had read and just food that I had eaten. It was my apartment, but I just remembered none of it. So I just, wandered around the apartment after they left and just opened drawers and
Did
thumbed through old.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I'm sorry. But did they refer to you as Steve? Did you have did you
Yeah,
check your
Steve
identification?
Cantwell. No, they called me Steve Cantwell, and that, my
Whoa.
name. So yeah,
So
so
wild.
I was just taking everything as it came. I had no expectations. I didn't know what to expect. I thought, Jesus, this is lasting a long time. At this point, it'd been 3 or 4 hours, and I was like, I didn't know it was supposed to last that long. Maybe it's because I'd never smoked anything before. So I just kept waiting for it to wear off, and just kind of fell asleep, kind of thumbing through old yearbooks of a high school that I didn't go to in Tyler, looking at pictures of myself in high school, and then fell asleep and woke up in the morning to somebody pounding on my door. And they were like, "Hey, you didn't show up for work. Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." Well, like, they're like, "Get dressed. We got to take you to work." So they bundled me into their truck and took me to the farm that I worked at. And I stood there with a clipboard in my hand, counting these giant forklift-sized crates that they had been picking apples and putting them into, and just made sure that there was the right number of crates on the truck before they left. But I really wasn't doing anything. I was just stopping and
That's
telling
some
everybody
OJ.
that.
That's some
Yeah,
OJT right there, ain't it?
yeah, yeah. There were no wrong answers that day. I don't know
No, that's
how
pretty
many
easy. All
apples
right.
went out of there. Yeah.
We messed up if you were like
So
a nuclear physicist or something. That'd be.
yes, yeah. It's a good thing I wasn't an air traffic controller, because
Yeah, there
I
you
just stood around and told people
go.
that I was on a drug trip, and that I lived in Alaska, and I was in witness protection, and it was Christmas, and everybody was just. And so, but my friends were like going along behind me, being like, "He got his bell rung yesterday. He almost drowned, so he's fine, but the doctor says he's gonna start picking things up." But so they took me home after I finished one perplexing day at the apple orchard, dropped me off at my apartment. I ate a frozen dinner that I found in the freezer, and I was worried at this point. It had been 24 hours, and I was like, well, it's not supposed to last 24 hours. So then I was worried and started to think about, well, maybe I'm in a coma. Maybe I don't know what the
Whoa.
fuck. Is this an alternate dimension? What did I do? Maybe this is why God tells us drugs, because so now I'm stuck in this other place, which, maybe this is limbo. Maybe, I don't know. So I just fell asleep, just kind of. Well, I stayed up pretty late that night, just kind of thinking about everything. Woke up the next morning, fully expected to be back in Alaska, but woke up the next morning, friend pounding on the door. Come on, we got to get you to work. And then that just became my everyday. Eventually I started showing up for work all by myself, but I just worked I just lived every day, every minute of every day, working at a dead end job, at a farm in Tyler, Texas, and did that every day for 8 years.
Holy crap, dude.
Like, saved a little bit of
But
money.
it's so strange. Like why would be Texas? It could have been
Yeah,
anywhere, dude.
yes, it could have been
You know what I mean?
anywhere. It should have been a lot more interesting of a place. It could have been.
That's a lot of
It could have
reflection on your behalf.
it could have been, if it could have been anywhere. I wish it would have been someplace a little bit more exotic than Tyler, Texas,
Okay.
and
Some
doing
of
something
these
a little bit more exotic than just doing the same thing all day long.
so did you did you started paying taxes? Did you get
I
a
had been paying
girlfriend
taxes.
or
No, I never got a girlfriend. For most of it, I still considered myself married. I was just, for half of it, like, people in my trip. Tyler was a pretty small town. Nothing like it is really.
Where's it located at? I don't even know where Tyler, Texas is.
It's located in northeast Texas,
Okay,
kind
so
of
like
up towards Oklahoma.
outside of
Yeah.
Dallas, out that way. Okay.
Yeah. So in
All
my
right.
in my trip, it seemed like it had about 20,000 people. I think in reality, it's got something like 200,000 people that live there, and they don't grow apples there. In fact, it doesn't look at all like I remembered it. But I had never. I think my brain chose that because it was a blank spot in my mind, and I wouldn't have a bunch of cognitive dissonance trying to like fight with my subconscious as it created a. But I didn't know any of this at the time. I've had every possible opinion about this in the last 15 years. So
Yeah.
so I go along for the first half of it. I tell anybody that I know that I'm in Texas, I'm in Alaska, I'm in witness protection. I don't know how long this drug trip's supposed to last. I might be, which sounds crazy to all of the townsfolk in Tyler, Texas, but my friends are in the background being like, he's brain damaged. So everybody in town just treats me like I'm brain damaged. They just kind of smile and nod when I say this shit to them. And they talk real slow and loud when they talk to me. And I don't know anybody. And so I just kind of keep to myself. I don't really talk to anybody. I just stay at home, after work. I don't really do anything. I don't go out. I look on the internet and try to find any, because I was in a big trial that was in the news and stuff like that. So I try to find, in Cincinnati or Orlando, any places where, that I try to find some sign of myself, of my former self on the internet.
Yeah.
I built a house in Alaska. I look at satellite photos. The house doesn't exist. I look at, I actually save up money and go drive to the town that I was born in, where my family members are buried in a graveyard and stuff like that, to my old high school. It looks nothing like it did when I remembered it, and my family members weren't there, and nobody in that town remembers me. But everybody in Tyler remembers me. They remember going to elementary school with me. And anytime that I go to the store, they remind me of 1,000 times that they knew me, or do you remember this time? Trying to jog my memory.
Was
And
the
I just
president the
know
same? Was the
the president
president
was
the
the
same?
same.
You
It
had
was
to see
Barack
television.
Obama. Yeah. Barack Obama was the president at the same time. And I frankly didn't pay that much attention. I felt like I was going crazy. I considered at one point to think that maybe if I end it
Making
here,
yourself.
it will take me back there. So
Yeah.
I considered everything. At that point.
Yeah.
And I knew everything about the Mormon church, and this would fascinate my friends who'd known me my entire life, knew that I wasn't Mormon. Yet after I almost drowned in the lake that day, I knew everything about Mormonism. I had
Right.
whole tracts of the Book of Mormon memorized, and they had one of those little dollar copies of the Book of Mormon that they would open up and start reading, and I would finish reading the page for them from memory. And they were like, "How do you know that?" And I would Google stuff on at night and try to figure out how I knew so much about the Mormon Church. And as
Oh,
I
so you started
researched
doubting.
that,
You started doubting your own existence, your own previous existence. That's interesting.
yes,
That's interesting.
and my children, and it's one
Right.
thing to just to miss your family. It's another thing to lose your family. It's another thing to think that your family never existed. And so that fucked with my head
Yeah.
really hard.
That'll make sure.
Yeah, and just like I felt like I was going crazy. And I felt like there was something going on that I couldn't explain, because I did know all this stuff about Mormons that I couldn't know. And that became a party trick. My friends would when at work, they would get around and they would be like, have me tell people about how I was in witness protection and I lived in Alaska and all this stuff. Ask him a question about Mormonism, he knows everything. And it just became kind of a little side thing that we did at the farm. And um and that's how I lived for the first 4 years that I was there. I kind of thought that I was stuck in on a drug trip, and that I was trying to find a way to get back. Eventually, what happened is I slowly convinced myself that I was brain damaged, and that I had nearly drowned with my friends, and that I forgot everybody, and had this crazy dream where I dreamed that I was in witness protection, which, if you think about it, sounds like something that you would make up in a near drowning
Right.
incident. And then slowly, rather than not talk to people at the grocery store when they would come up to me and tell me the stories of me, I was like, I don't remember you, but I have brain damage, but I'm going to remember your name for the next time that I see you. So tell me your name again. And I try to remember, that person's name is Janice. And, so I would I started to like act like I existed, I guess, is the best way of. I started to
Right.
talk to people. I started when my friends would go grab a drink after work. I would go with them, and I played. There was a ukulele on my couch in my apartment. When I picked it up, my fingers just knew where to go on the ukulele, like I'd been playing ukulele my whole life, and I played in a cover band with my friends, and we started doing that again, just playing in the garage, and then occasionally play a wedding or something, or at a bar, and
Wow.
did that a little bit, and then just slowly started to you know do better at my job, not walk around like a zombie all the time, engage with people, trying to be social, trying to just gave up the fact that I had this family that was waiting for me in Alaska, and gave up the fact that I was Mormon, and just started being Steve Cantwell, brain damage survivor in Tyler,
Sounds like
Texas.
it sounds like the ultimate ego death. You don't you've
Yes,
heard of people taking like
yes,
strong hits of like dimethyltryptamine or
sure.
acid, LSD, or something,
I've done a lot
and
of that
you
stuff in the years since then.
there's a
Yeah,
part where you think you're, and then there's like an ego death where you're like, well, I'm okay, and I give in. But this was like a
yeah,
slow pounding in of the
yes.
true I am everybody and everything possible alternate dimension thing.
Yeah, I
That's
went from thinking that I
crazy.
do exist someplace else, to wondering if I even exist at all, to wondering if any of this is real, if
Wow.
and I was walking, and I was well adjusted at the 8-year point, when enough to where I would call friends and talk to friends, and start to obsess about something more than Alaska, and was just walking across the park one day to go see my friends, and had a bucket of chicken under my arm, and could see them kind of in the distance, kind of playing hacky sack around this picnic table. They had all just been to a demolition derby, and that one of my friends had participated in it. So I was looking forward to them telling me what happened at the demolition derby, and was maybe 100 yards from them on this long green lawn in a park, and just that feeling of the ground being squishy again happened, and I just fell right through the ground again, and there was another short period of sensation of falling, and then I fell kind of up into my body in my friend's basement. The whole world was kind of like spin. I guess the best way I can describe it is I could kind of feel the fact that the earth was spinning, and I wasn't spinning at the same rate. And then slowly I felt myself lock in to the rotation of the earth. And then I started to spin at the same rate as the room, and then the spinning stopped. And then I heard my wife behind me, and I was on the ground, and she was behind me, and I was having a grand mal seizure. I was just like, and my friend, the army guy, had his phone in his hand, and was in the process of dialing 911, when she said, hang it up, I think he's okay now. And I stopped having a seizure, and I was like, and I couldn't believe I was back. Total elapsed time in the real world about 45 seconds. They think less than a minute that the whole thing took, and I just lost myself. I could not believe that it was real. I hugged everybody. I cried. I peed myself. It was Christmas.
Whoa.
The kids all came down from upstairs and were like, "What's wrong with Daddy? Is Daddy okay?" And my wife was like, we were at the neighbor's house for Christmas, and I had gone downstairs as a Mormon and smoked suspicious drugs in the basement, and like had pissed myself at a Christmas party. So my wife was mad at me, and she was like telling the kids, he's fine, he just fell down, he's gonna be okay. We're just gonna change his clothes. He'll be up. So my kids all went upstairs, and I just started telling my wife this story of like, this is what happened to me, and I've been gone for 8 years, and so she like shut up, throws me into their bathroom, strip off all my clothes. My friend goes up and gets some sweatpants and a t-shirt for me to borrow, and I come upstairs in a borrowed sweatshirt and tees to my beautiful family sitting around a beautifully set Christmas dinner with a Christmas tree, and it was just like, and I just lost shit. I started crying and touching my kids' hair. In their minds, I had gone downstairs 5 minutes ago, and I come upstairs acting like I just staggered out of a desert. So I'm just crying and telling them how much I love them and touching their hair, and I just cannot keep my shit together at this Christmas party. I'm just weeping at the table from the gratitude of being back and having a family and having it be real and just having not been crazy. And those people never hung out with us again.
I can imagine. What I mean, you gave me some of the deeper perspectives. What other perspective did it give you? Like a gratitude towards one's family and existence? What did it do for you?
Well, there's not an exit interview, so you just kind of catch can with your theories. I didn't know what the happened to me. I thought that it was still synthetic marijuana for the rest of that day, and I was like, "Don't do that." It's and my friend never went. He never took his turn. He was like, threw that stuff right in the garbage, and so I didn't know. But that started. But I had, while I was in Tyler for 8 years, I had Googled stuff on the internet that had basically told me that the Mormon Church may not be true. It may have been started by a con man, Joseph Smith, and that while I was researching and trying to figure out how I knew all this stuff about Mormons, I read all kinds, because Mormonism happened, in the 1800s. They had newspapers at that time, so I read all the real accounts of how it started, and was just like, I think that this is maybe not as true as I thought it had been. And so I walked into that downstairs gun room, a Mormon Elders Quorum president, having been in it my entire life, trying as hard as I can. I walked out of that gun room like a minute later, agnostic, like not knowing what to believe. So that started.
What about now? What about now? How does that change your perspective now? Have you any other saying I was time? So if it's a Obama administration, so that's at least 8 to 10 years ago. So there been there's been some type of reflection back? Have you been, I wouldn't say that you're probably Mormon anymore.
Everything changed. Everything changed. So when I lived in Alaska, I owned a giant cleaning company, commercial cleaning company. I had a paid-for house on a couple of acres that I owned outright. I came out of there believing money isn't real and that life isn't real, and that this doesn't feel any realer than Tyler did. And so I'm not going to spend any more time. I'm not going to spend any more time as a professional janitorial company owner. I want to find out what's really important to me and not waste any more time trying to gather money, because money isn't real. So I called up a friend of mine who was a realtor, and I said, make up a number, find out how much money you can get me today for my house, and I will sell it. And he immediately found somebody that a cash deal to buy the house. Mm-hmm. I called another person and sold my business for just ridiculously low amount of money. I said, what can you give me I called a competitor and said, what could you give me for today for my business? Sold them my business, and we pulled up a big construction dumpster, took all of our belongings that weren't photo albums or something like that, and threw it in that construction dumpster. And the whole 6-person Cantwell family moved to Hawaii. I bought 2 sailboats, and we moved on to those sailboats and just decided we were gonna catch some adventure. So
dude.
So I had a full
You're like my
had a
fucking hero,
total
dude.
reset.
You're like a
I had a
hero, dude. You're like you came out, you pissed yourself and then put on a Superman cape in my my eyes, dude. That's incredible.
but it definitely did the thing that that psychedelics do, which it basically shows you what's not important. It doesn't really spell out for you what is important. It takes some time to figure out, but it definitely shows you what's not fucking important anymore. And I
Yeah.
definitely acted on all of that, which is just like this isn't important. It's our cleaning business isn't important. You know, us shivering in Alaska, cringe, hiding from that's been in prison for years now and is never getting out. That's not real. We're gonna go
Mhm.
someplace beautiful, and we just moved to Waikiki in Hawaii and started having on the sailboat. Had never had sex with anybody besides my wife before. Started having sex. I just started having on the sailboat, and just had like a bucket, learning to drink, smoked cigarettes for a week or two. You know, just tried everything. You know, just tried
Right.
everything that I could think of that I had not. You know, because Mormons are all about what you can't do, and I was just like, fuck that, I'm trying
Mhm.
everything. You know, I tried
Magic
cocaine.
underwear,
It took the
Koloff
magic
and magic
underwear off.
underwear.
Yeah, yeah. Started fucking naked
Yeah, I
for a
know a little bit about it.
change.
I know a little. It's very
Yeah.
interesting to me. Yeah. So
So that
yeah.
became, and then of course got a divorce because you know the
No,
inertia
okay.
couldn't handle everything. She didn't go on a salvia trip; it was just me. So she hung on as long as she could, but eventually she was just like, you know, you're crazy. I'm
Yeah.
divorcing you. So left me with
Mm.
one sailboat and took the kids to Ohio to go live with family. And I just kind of was left there on that island to kind of, without a family, to try to figure out who I was, what was important to me. What I knew, what I didn't want
Jesus.
to do, but I needed to figure out what I did want to do. And so realized that when I perform, that makes me happy. And people had always told me that I was funny and good at telling stories. So I was like, I wonder if I would like being a stand-up comic. And because I
Oh,
had no
dude.
reason not to, I started stand-up. And that's what,
How
and
how
that
long?
became the great
How
love of
long
my
now?
life.
How long now,
12
buddy?
years. 12 years.
I'm 10 years in with a lot of breaks because of COVID and stuff like that. It is I
Yeah.
do a multitude of art. I've been a metal musician, a windsurfer, I'm an oil painter. But in comedy, I just started because the language here in Mexico is
Yeah.
difficult for me to grasp. But the people here are so it's kind of easy in a sense because where I'm at is not like a big city. I'm in the Yucatan Peninsula. That your
Oh, yeah.
trip is similar to mine, but I was because I wasn't going to let them put anything on my arm without my say so. It's my body,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So I just
Sure.
left me and my ex-wife now left and sold everything and landed here in the Yucatan 3 years ago and for
Yeah.
Christmas of 21 and got a girlfriend now and I started the podcast and started doing
Yeah.
comedy again. So it's similar in a way,
Yeah.
but very different in a way. But it's so like you and I also love it. It's the hardest art form because it's art. And people go, oh, you're just
Yes.
telling jokes. Like, oh, tell me a
And it
joke.
is
And
the
it's not how it
hardest.
works. It is
Right.
difficult as hell. Yeah, very
Yes.
difficult.
It takes
And
all of my time. You know, I go out every night and I do as many shows as I possibly can. And
where are
I've
you
hit
at?
it.
Where are you located at?
Houston. I moved to
You're in
Houston
Houston.
because it's a huge comedy hub. I'm not far from where Tyler is now, which but I
Right.
happen but I was brought here by comedy, and Houston has been a huge but my career has gone huge here
No
in
kidding.
Houston. I got to open for Chappelle. I got to open in theaters for a lot of the people on Saturday Night Live, and just have had really really good luck when it comes, like I was meant to do it, like it was waiting there for me to do it. So just everything just kind of happened like it had been waiting to happen. And
Yeah.
then got
I
my
think you're
kids
in a
back.
unique position to do so. I think the thing is that you're kind of discounting yourself because you're in such a unique position as to where you've lived 8 more years than everyone else who is your counterpart. You know what I mean? So you
Yes.
have
8 hard
not
years.
because comedy is about finding your voice. It took me about 4 years to find mine.
Sure.
You got like a crash course into like, this is who you are, dude, and this is what you're going. It's incredible, dude. It's so
Yeah.
incredible to run across. I didn't know that you. I didn't know you were even a comic when I looked you up. When I seen, I didn't know that at all. I will be looking now. I'm
Yeah.
going to check out your shit. I'm going to check out your stuff, dude. Shit, that's wild, man. So no more drugs for you. You're good to go.
No, I did. I never took Salvia again. I never tried that again, but I tried almost everything else. I tried, uh, I'm a big believer in mushrooms. In Hawaii, they grow naturally right out of the ground. So I would
Right.
pull my boat up onto the North Shore, wander off onto this cow pasture, and just find old dried cow shit that had skinny mushrooms with spindly stalks growing out of them. And because it was illegal to have them, I would just eat them raw right out of the ground. Wouldn't even wash them off, and I would just eat until I was full, because I was hurting at a certain point because I just lost my family and just trying to rediscover who
Yeah.
I am. So I was all about taking the fucking journey. So I would eat my stomach full to the brimming point of raw mushrooms, and then just go out there on my boat and just lay on my boat and look up at the stars and just fucking fry on mushrooms, just trying to get
Yeah, but that
abducted
must
by
be like
aliens.
it's probably like an aperitif compared to what you've been through. That must have been nothing.
Yeah, well, I'm you know
It's different.
that many mushrooms is never nothing. Yeah, it's different. You see telepathic grasshoppers, and there's a lot more woo woo to it on a heroic dosage of mushrooms. You learn
And
a
now you're
lot.
able to support yourself. You're a full-time comic, able to support yourself doing stand-up.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. Okay. Well, I got a friend who's on his way there. He's a Detroit comic and he's been around. So Chris Barrett, this is to you, my friend. You keep plowing away because he's a former Army soldier. I
Okay.
met him. I started stand-up 6 months before him. He was in Germany with me. We both started in Germany, stand-up in Frankfurt. And I lived 20 years in Germany too. I've been around. And so yeah, you and I are travelers in this dimension. Whatever the hell we're doing it, dude. So it's kind of cool to meet like a like soul like yourself. Like me and you are like, how old are you, dude?
56.
56. I'll be 45 in February. So yeah, when this comes out, basically in 2 weeks. It's just
Yeah, my birthday's January 17th next week.
Oh damn! Happy birthday to you, buddy. Yeah, so he just started again, and I told him you're too damn funny to stop. And he's got a couple. He knows he's got a couple screws loose, and he's got some military disability paperwork going on for him. But he's pushing hard, and we just had this, one of those real, you had those comedy friends are the best friends in the world.
Sure.
I don't care. I've had friends from the military. They're also great friends. They're different kind of friends. But comedy friends, they know why you're so dark or whatever. I'm a dark comic, or why you are the way you are, because you get to share ideas with them. You've stood in front of the 3 people eating mashed potatoes and chicken wings while telling your favorite or whatever it is that you're trying to do just to get going. And you've both been down in there digging a ditch, throwing out nothing, just digging a hole farther, just to try to figure out what it is that you're trying to do. So this is for you, my friend Barrett. You can get to a part where maybe you can go to Houston, connect up.
Yes.
He's a great guy. Great guy.
Well,
but this big thing now is Austin.
Yeah, Austin. I go to Austin all the time. Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
You tried Kill Tony yet?
I have never signed up for Kill Tony. I'm not a 1 minute kind of thing, but I know him very casually, and I know lots of people from the show, and I go over there all the time and do shows, and I constantly try to get on their open mic, but it's like, goddamn, dude, it's like a refugee camp for stand-up comics. You go in there and be like 2,000 people trying to sign up to get.
You mean at the mothership?
At the mothership, yeah.
Holy shit, dude.
So it's tough to get on the mothership. There's a lot of other good shows in Houston, and just Texas in general is a gigantic comedy scene. There are hundreds of shows in the Houston area that pay, And so you can just
Wow.
in Texas make a living just going from show to show to show to show, and putting up a lot of you got to work hard. Nobody's paying me very much per show, but you know we like to think in Houston that comedy is a belt system. And at 12 years in, I'm a green belt. It takes 20 to get your black belt. By the time you got
Oof.
20, you can make pretty good money. There's no guarantees about it. It all depends upon how talented you are. But I don't fucking care about money. And none of the
No.
things that I like cost money.
Yeah, I got you, dude. So you ever think about like I know like in the old days, they do things like the triple run, like Stanhope and those guys.
Yes,
And you,
Dave.
you ever
Yeah,
do things like that
Dave
where you
Tribble.
go,
Yes,
yeah, yeah,
all
yeah,
the
yeah,
time.
where you're
I
just
just
like,
came
I'm
back
going on
from
the
one.
road. Oh, did you?
Yes, I came back from Idaho. I have a
Oh yeah,
Sprinter
that's where they
van.
go. Up there in the middle of
Watch this.
nowhere.
I have a Sprinter van. I got to show you this fucking Sprinter van that has solar. That I put solar panels on it. Oh, it's
That's
dark.
what I do
Anyway,
here.
maybe you can see. Maybe you can see. But I got this
Oh
Sprinter
yeah,
van
dude. Oh, you're living it,
that
dude. That's
that
the
I, that
life.
I and it's got a solar panels on it. It's like a little apartment in there, and then I just basically go wherever. I spend the night in the bar parking lot or whatever, shower
Yeah,
at the Planet Fitness,
yeah.
and
Got a membership. There's
just
like, yeah.
yes, I put I just sold a Toyota Prius that I put 280,000 miles on, driving all over hell, all over fucking hell, doing comedy.
That's a dude. You're like uh you in many eyes you're going to this what you're doing right now that's coming on with me is going to give a lot of people a motivation to do what it is what they want to in life, and that's what I want. Whatever it is,
Yes,
you want to shine a shoe, you want to wax apples, you want to whatever you want to do, that's what you should be doing. And
find your dream,
from
live it.
find your dream,
Money's not
dude, and
real.
this is so cool, dude. Dude, please do me a favor. If you have any bigger shows coming up, could you promote them real quick for me? That way, I mean, maybe 10 people will come or 5 people will come, one person will come. But just go ahead and check out Steve's stuff, man. We got anything you want to promote?
I'll be the week this comes out. I'll be at the Riot in Houston, and I will also be at a very good comedy club called the Secret Group. Both of them are in Houston. But yeah, and the Secret Group is my home club, and you can see me there a lot. You can see me at the Riot a lot. Just headlined 2 weekends in a row there, so it's a
Oh,
good.
really? You're headlining. You're doing hour
I
sets?
headline, yeah, yeah.
Oh, fuck, dude. The most I ever got to was 30. And I was getting
Okay,
ready to record it, to burn it. I just wanted to get it out. And I was going to open for De Stefano.
yeah,
He was coming to Germany with I can't think of his guy he takes with him, the Greek guy. He's got one of his names. Also New York
yeah,
comic, and I was going to open. I can't think of his name right now. It's not. I can't think of his name.
sure.
And yeah, and then COVID hit, and then they were like, "Yeah, you got to do this and do this to even go up on stage." And I was like, "I'm not doing any of that, dude. I'm not doing it.
Yeah,
I'm not. If you're going to separate me from what I love by telling me I have to cross this line that I will not cross, then I'm not doing it." And then I came here and just ran into a couple small community here, and right now I'm actually I was just doing some open mics, getting some Spanish. It's all in Spanish, so it's my third language. I've done comedy in. I've
nice.
done it in German in front of Germans. That's you want to talk about hell on earth, buddy.
I've spent some time in Germany, but down you know where Spangdahlem Air Force Base is?
What's the name of it?
Spangdahlem Air Force Base.
Spangdahlem? No, where's that at?
Uh,
I know
it's
all
by
of. I've been
Trier.
all
You
over
know where
Germany.
Trier? Do you know where
Trier,
Trier is?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's right. It's Trier is right on the other side of the border from France. There. Yeah.
yeah.
I lived in a place called Mannheim.
Okay,
If you've
yeah.
heard of it, it's an hour south of
I've heard
Frankfurt.
of
That's where I
Mannheim.
lived. Yeah, dude.
I've been all over there. Any country that you live in, there's always like an American Air Force base or bar that expats go to.
Yes.
I've done
Oh, you
comedy
mean
all even
Ramstein? You went to
yeah,
Ramstein Air
Ramstein Air
Base?
Force Base. Yeah, Spangdahlem is
Oh
the
yeah,
there.
yeah. Of
Yeah,
course, of course. They always have shows there, dude. I got welcome to a couple of them, but they were like,
yeah,
"Yeah, you're what's that whole blue haired stuff that I don't dig. That whole you can't do this because you say that, and you're not welcome
yeah,
here." And I was like, "Well, then I'm not welcome there. I don't. I'm going to
yeah.
my audience. If I grew one, is going to follow me to whatever I do." So I never.
Sure.
It was weird. It's always weird. Those shows can be a little weird. I don't know what your experiences was with them, but I always found them to be a little bit off putting.
It's all service members
So
usually.
which is
usually.
fine. That's not the point, but it's the people who kind of run it, or like the base has a captain and she thinks she
Sure.
has some type of job. You know what I'm talking about. So
Sure. Yeah.
that's an incredible story, man. Thank you so much for coming on. And I wish you, dude, seriously, like I what is your goal in stand-up? Just to do more, just to like live and experience like the
Just
concept of
to
flushing out ideas?
my goal is just to do it until I die. To get better and better and better and better at it until I don't. There's no real goal. I mean, if it never gets any better than it is now, fucking a.
You're happy. Fucking A,
Yeah.
dude. It's great to even know. It's great to know you, man. Really,
Thank you.
seriously, it's great to know you. Thank you
Thanks for
so
having me
much
on
for coming on
the.
the show.
Thanks for having me on the pod, man.
Dude, appreciate it. Let's keep in touch for real, man. All right.
Okay.
All right. You have yourself a wonderful evening.
Thanks, bro.
Thank you. Wow, that's an interesting story. So it turns into what's going on in the world to I am now a stand-up comic and I live by myself doing triple runs in a solar-powered van. Now, that would be something I would really love to do eventually, maybe. Who knows? We'll see what the world brings me. I really enjoy stand-up as well. I also really enjoy doing this podcast as well. I get to meet interesting people like Steve, as well as MK Davis and all these other incredible people that I've run into on the show. Just you never know what you're going to find. And this is testimony to that. That was a really fun interview. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's a little bit different than what I usually do. Please do me a favor, like and subscribe to the channel on YouTube. You can also follow me over on Spreaker. Spreaker is a cool podcast like distributor type place. I think it's run by iHeartRadio, and I just signed up to that today. So you're going to be hearing this in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever. It's the end of January now. Now Trump is your president. Anyhow, we are the I, and we are aware. I love you all.